Hello everyone, and welcome back to the channel. Today we delve into a story that feels like it's been ripped from the pages of a noir novel, yet it's all too real. It's a tale of shadows, secrets, and a question that has haunted a community for years. Who was the perpetrator and how did they vanish without a trace? We're going to unravel the chilling case known as the Shadow of the Murderer. Our story begins in the quiet, seemingly peaceful town of Oakhaven, a place where everyone knows their neighbors and serious crime is something you only see on television. Or so they thought. On a crisp autumn evening, the tranquility of Oakhaven was shattered forever. The victim, a beloved local figure, was discovered in their own home. There were no signs of forced entry, no obvious struggle, just an eerie silence that spoke volumes. The police arrived to a scene that was both baffling and deeply unsettling. It was as if a ghost had passed through, leaving only tragedy in its wake. The initial investigation was a whirlwind of activity. Detectives canvassed the neighborhood, interviewing friends, family, and colleagues. Everyone had a story, a memory, an alibi. But the more they dug, the more confusing it became. The victim had no known enemies. They were described as kind, generous, and private. Who would want to harm such a person? The lack of a clear motive was the first major roadblock. It was a crime without a reason, a puzzle with a missing piece right at its center. As the days turned into weeks, the investigators focused on the scant evidence left behind. A single unidentified footprint near the back door, a faint, almost imperceptible scent of an unusual cologne, and a cryptic note left on a table. The note contained just one word: soon. What did it mean? Was it a threat? A promise? A taunt? Forensics worked tirelessly, but the footprint didn't match anyone in the databases, and the cologne was from a limited edition brand, making it nearly impossible to trace. The perpetrator was meticulous, almost professional. They had planned this, leaving behind just enough to create confusion, but not enough to be identified. They were a shadow, moving unseen and unheard. The media frenzy was immediate. The Shadow of the Murderer, a name coined by a local journalist, stuck. It perfectly captured the elusive nature of the killer. The town of Oakhaven was gripped by fear. People started locking their doors earlier, looking over their shoulders, and suspicion fell on strangers and neighbors alike. The community fabric, once so tightly woven, began to fray. The police held press conferences, appealing for any information, no matter how small. They assured the public they were doing everything they could, but behind the scenes, frustration was mounting. Every lead was a dead end, every theory a blind alley. Let's pause and consider the psychology here. How does someone commit such a crime and simply disappear? This wasn't a crime of passion. It was cold and calculated. The perpetrator demonstrated an incredible level of self-control and foresight. They knew the victim's routine, the layout of the house, and exactly how to avoid detection. This suggests someone who was either incredibly intelligent and patient, or someone who was hiding in plain sight, a person so trusted that their presence wouldn't raise any alarms. This is the duality that makes this case so terrifying. The monster could be a stranger lurking in the dark, or it could be the friendly face you see every day. The investigation took a strange turn a month later. A series of anonymous letters began arriving at the police station. They were written in the same hand as the note found at the scene. The letters were not confessions, they were riddles. They hinted at the killer's motives, taunting the police with philosophical questions about justice and fate. The author claimed their actions were a form of correction, a balancing of scales that the world had ignored. This elevated the case from a simple homicide to a complex psychological battle. The killer wasn't just a murderer, they were a performer, and the entire town was their unwilling audience. The police brought in profilers who painted a picture of a highly intelligent, narcissistic individual with a god complex, someone who felt they were above the law and society itself. The letters provided new clues, but they were wrapped in layers of misdirection. They mentioned locations around town, historical events, and local legends. Detectives spent weeks deciphering these clues, hoping they would lead to the killer's identity or their next move. It was a high-stakes cat-and-mouse game. One riddle led them to an old, abandoned library, where they found another note tucked inside a philosophy book. This note read, "You're looking in the wrong place. The shadow is cast by the light you already see." What could this mean? Was it a metaphor or a literal clue? Was the killer suggesting they were someone in the public eye? Someone involved in the investigation itself? The paranoia intensified. This leads us to the most compelling question of all. Who was it? Years have passed and the case officially remains cold, but several compelling theories have emerged. One theory points to a disgruntled former business partner of the victim, someone who had lost a fortune in a deal years ago and had been nursing a silent grudge. This person had the intelligence and the resources to plan such a crime, but a solid alibi placed them hundreds of miles away. Could the alibi have been faked? Another theory suggests a member of a secret society, a group that believed they were arbiters of justice. The philosophical tone of the letters supports this, but no evidence of such a group has ever been found in Oakhaven. Perhaps the most chilling theory, and the one hinted at by the killer themselves, is that the perpetrator was someone close to the investigation. Someone with insider knowledge who could manipulate the evidence and steer the detectives in the wrong direction. This would explain how they stayed one step ahead at every turn. But this theory is almost too terrible to contemplate. It would mean the ultimate betrayal of trust from those sworn to protect. The truth is, we don't know. The shadow remains a shadow. The creator of this intricate and terrifying puzzle was a master of their craft. They built a narrative of fear and confusion, using the tools of a novelist and the precision of a surgeon. They exploited the trust of a small town and turned it against itself. The how is a testament to meticulous planning, patience, and a deep understanding of human psychology. They moved like a ghost because they either existed on the fringes of society, unnoticed, or were hidden directly in the spotlight, shielded by their perceived role. The case of the shadow of the murderer serves as a stark reminder that the darkest secrets can hide in the most ordinary places. It's a story with no resolution, a wound that is never fully healed for the town of Oakhaven. The perpetrator didn't just take a life, they stole a community's sense of safety and left behind a legacy of unanswered questions. They created a perfect crime, a masterpiece of malice that continues to baffle and intrigue us to this day. And perhaps that was their goal all along. To become a legend, a ghost story whispered in the dark, their shadow looming forever. Thank you for joining me on this deep dive into one of the most enigmatic cases out there. What are your theories? Who do you think the shadow was? Let me know in the comments below. If you found this story as fascinating as I did, please hit that like button and subscribe to the channel for more content like this. Stay safe, and see you in the next video.